Welcome back to the Convo Couch, my humans. Pasta Jardula here, and Jonny Sue is still spinning on those ones and twos. Ladies and gentlemen, as the death of George Floyd has sparked so many people to get out in the streets and practice their First Amendment rights, we, the Convo Couch, have decided to chase down these stories and see what's actually going on in these protests. You've joined us in Seattle, L.A., and even Portland recently. But just the other day, we had a very sad situation. A man by the name of Garrett Foster was murdered and killed in the streets of Austin, Texas, while practicing his First Amendment rights. So today we decided to dive into it a little bit more, talk about what happened, and we've brought on one of the organizers. He is the Star Power Blac Collective organizer and creator. His name is King Fafah. Thank you, King, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on.
I know it's tough times and it's really hard for you to get on here. The other day when I was speaking to you, I love the spirit. You guys were back out in the street marching again. But let's tell us, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization Star Power Blac Collective, so people get an idea of what you do and what your role is here.
Yeah, so Star Power Blac Collective is essentially an organization that amplifies Black voices, and we demand for social and political change, essentially, drastic change, extreme change. Star Power Collective started as something else, more of a different, except like an entertainment establishment. But however, ever since this movement has came alive and the George Floyd murder happened, I felt like I had to do something, and I felt like I had to continue this movement in Austin specifically. So I decided to revamp my organization and make it into a movement. And we have Star Blac Collective, and we do a lot of organizing, a lot of protests, a lot of rallies, a lot of showcases, all about the movement.
That's the amazing thing about these marches. We know somebody out here from the Black Future Project who's also an actor or whatnot, and he's used his platform and his movement to take it to the streets, somewhat like you. Because if you go to your Instagram, you'll see there's a lot of like art stuff, music
Right.
you're looking at and whatnot. Are you involved in any types of arts, or are you an artist yourself?
Yeah, I like to create music time to time. I haven't done it in a while, but that's something I really like to do.
Okay, so let's dive into the whole situation. That's King Fafah, so that's his organization. And how well did you know Garrett Foster and his fiance?
It was the type of relationship I seen him all the time. And Garrett Foster, as you know, he wasn't a man of a lot of words. He was an ally, and every time we came about, he would take care of his fiance, and they were a great team. So it was more of a high and by basis, but honestly, there's a lot more of that. His energy was just awesome. Their energy was incredible, and they made it to every protest. Everybody knew Garrett Foster and Whitney, so that's what it was.
How many times would you say you've marched with him before this night?
Countless. I've been out there almost every night, and if I'm not there, he's there. So every time since George Floyd.
Okay, so tell us the details of that night, about the whole protest. Was it multiple groups? Was it just your organization marching? And where did you start? Where did you finish? And how everything took place?
Correct. So the march was essentially started by standing with Portland and everything that they're going through. This is so it was.
So it was in solidarity to Portland.
Exactly. Yeah. So that at the same time when that happened, this was the beginning of Black leaders, including myself and other organizations, Peace in Austin, Mike Ramos Brigade.
What are some of those organizations? Can you talk about who else was with you, the organizations and the leaders, so we know that night?
Yeah, it was Peace in Austin,
okay.
The Mike Ramos Brigade. We have Family for Justice out there too as well.
Okay, multiple groups.
Multiple groups, correct.
Yeah.
And this was a night where we all came together. We have other Black leaders too as well that are not part of any organization. And it was like we all came together and led this protest for once.
Yeah.
So this is the beginning of it. And we had goals, objectives to hit. So we hit the Capitol then we hit over to the W, where actually the mayor's staying at. And so it was a really productive march.
Yeah.
Then we're heading down, I believe it was 2nd Street, I believe. And we made a left on Congress. Yeah. And we're going down. We have people on bikes that are stopping the cars going the opposite direction.
Yeah. It's a peaceful protest, right? I mean,
it's a peaceful. Oh yeah, no, nothing crazy. No, it's a peaceful protest. And we always been like just across the nation. We always been peaceful.
How many people were there that night?
I would say probably 200 to 300.
All right, so now you're hitting 2nd Street, and what happens?
We make a left on Congress.
Okay.
And Congress is a populous street. There's a lot of things you can do on there. And heading up towards the Capitol. And as we hit 4th Street, that's when the car comes from, if you're going north, he comes from the left-hand side and turns into the protesters.
Okay.
Puts his brakes on.
So let's talk about this right now, because I've been in a situation where, when we went to the first Black Lives rally over here, it was a cop that went through the crowd that should have gone through the crowd. And I stood by my beliefs and my reporting that it was the cop's fault for going through. This is not even a cop now. This is a civilian car. You're saying it's turning into the protest.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, what else are you thinking if you're running into a group of people, whether it's a protest or not?
Yeah.
There's a group of people right there. So, I believe that he had his priorities and his objective and something he completed. He turned into the protesters. His brake lights come on.
Did he hit his horn?
He did hit his horn.
Yeah. Could he have just waited for like about 10 minutes and the protesters would have passed and he would have been able to make his turn?
He could have waited if he wanted to wait.
All right. So it wasn't like you guys were standing there still and saying, you're not going anywhere, you're trapped. It was, he was just pissed off, hitting his horn. He could have waited and then made his turn. I want to point that out, because sometimes people will say, well, maybe he had to get home to his pregnant wife or his dog that was sick. He could have waited, but he chose not to.
We were all marching. Yeah, he could have waited.
Okay. Let's get to the next part of the story. Before we talk about what you heard, you had told me that Garrett had took his weapon out because there were incidences before where people, and I don't want to just say, oh, it's Texas, everybody's strapped, but you're saying there are people who have been by your organizations in your marches before who have branded a gun, shown a gun, or threatened with a gun. No?
Oh yeah, no, it's true. Logan Bucknam, I'll say his name. Logan Bucknam is the one that the first one documented that actually did last month. We were protesting at APD and drove into the crowd and started banishing his gun, his weapon.
Really?
Yeah. APD took him in. Austin Police Department took him in, and then let him go.
Okay. So this is a situation where protests may be a lot of and I know it happens too as well, the people who are not part of the organization, who are not part of the protest, who are kind of ideologically on the other side and look at you guys as rioters and not protesters, they have lost their patience before, showed their guns, showed their opposition to stuff. So with these protests, what you're saying is that some of the organizers or the protesters needed to be strapped to protect themselves, maybe.
Yeah, that's when Garrett started. I mean, he said that's when I realized, and this is what he's saying. This is when he realized he needed to come, with protection.
So he was at protest before without a gun.
Correct.
So now it's like, okay, they're branding weapons, they're flashing us guns. I need to protect my wife and my protesters around me, and I have to bring a gun myself.
Yes, I get you out. Yeah.
Okay, so the protester gets mad. You're near 2nd and 4th Street. You said you were moving away from 2nd, going into 4th. The protester turns, not the protester, the agitator turns into the crowd, hitting his horn, whatnot, decides not to wait because he's pissed off. We see people rush around the car, and then gunshots happen, right?
Yeah.
Rush around the car. Us from this point, what happened then? Did he speed off? Did they surround the car? Was the guy threatened? Tell us your side of the story of what you witnessed.
So I was actually on the other side. So this happened, if you're facing north, it happened on the left-hand side. I was on the right-hand side when all that happened. So I was a little bit further away. But if you can tell by the footage that he turns into the protesters, he puts his brake lights on, he honks his horn. Protesters run up. That's when he rolls down the window and starts taking shots. He does first 5 shots, then he does another 3 or 4 and takes off.
So he fired his gun about 9 to 10 times. Anywhere from 8 to 10, maybe.
Right, correct.
And you didn't see Garrett at this time. You didn't know who was shot.
No.
So
I knew as soon as he drove off, I knew who got shot. Yeah.
You knew it was Garrett though, or no?
No, because when I ran and I turned back around and ran back and I seen somebody lay on the ground, that's when I knew it was Garrett.
Then you knew it was okay. Let's talk a little bit about this real quick. Now, first of all, we have to point out that you didn't see the actual shooting of Garrett. You didn't see Garrett. You heard the shots. You saw the car turn in. All that you saw.
Right.
There was a lot of commotion, and then everything started to work itself out after the guy had sped off.
Correct.
You had mentioned to me, though, that you felt there was a little bit of issue from this point now, before we get to the actual details of that. But from now, a man is hurt. He's on the ground with bullets in his body. What was the response to go save him, to help him, or to save his life from this point here?
Slow. See, there's cops that are following protesters. They hear gunshots. They hear all that. And when they see Garrett laying on the ground, of course, protesters run around. Then the cops come up. And this is why we have to defund them. They don't know how to handle crowds. And they start the first thing they're saying is telling people to move out. Not attending to a person that just got shot, but telling everybody to move away. And finally, they go up to him. And they're taking their time on this person, on Garrett. And the cops are too busy telling us to move, and they're threatening to arrest us at this point. And I called the cop out. Why are you trying to do this? We had to help out our friend over here. 5 minutes into it, EMS is still not showing up. That's when they put the tape up, the yellow tape. And this pains me a lot, but there's point where there's cops pushing us or blocking the scene, and they're laughing. We have a cop that's laughing at us, laughing as our friend is on the ground. And when all that's happening, EMS finally comes up. They're doing CPR on him, and they finally take him in and take him off. It was probably like a good 7 to 10 minutes.
Was there any medics or doctors within the organization, within the march, that wanted to attend to him but was told to stay away because the cops said stay away?
There were medics that always come around. Not to my knowledge, though. I don't. But the cops did tell everybody to push away, so that I could see that happening. But I can't say for sure. That's what happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
The cop who was laughing, was it an attitude of like, okay, you guys got what you deserved kind of attitude? Is that what or was it just kind of like laughing? I mean, what was that? What did you feel that laughing was? I don't want to gloss over that, because that's something that's, we did a report finding that officers that were involved with the Elijah McClain murder were like laughing on another date, whatnot. And I don't take lightly to that. What did you feel when you saw that cop laughing and you approached him or you yelled at him?
Well, there was protesters that was hurt, and one protester said, "How can you sit?" They were asking if you have any footage, let us know if you have. And he said it in a sarcastic tone, and they're like, "Why are you being sarcastic for?" And he started laughing, and he goes, "You have to get used to seeing a dead body." And of course, protesters get enraged, and he's just literally, I don't know why he's laughing, but it's laughing as if he's trying to rub the situation in.
Yeah.
And at that point, that's when I realized that this is really people that are fighting for rights, for equality, for peace, against people that don't want that for us. And that's a war after I seen that, to be honest with you.
What happened to the shooter now? The shooter drove away. He turned himself in, I think you said, but then was let go pending an investigation. Can you tell me more about what he said happened, or what you know from the organizers or the group of what this man said and why he did what he did?
I don't know what he said, to be honest with you, but he did call the police first after the shooting. So it was all, he knew the method. Call him first, explain what happened, explain his side of the story. That's when he came to APD, Austin Police Department, and they said that he's cooperating. And from what I heard, they haven't released his name, and they let him go pending investigation.
Let's talk about what we talked about on the phone the other day, because this is something when you said, and it was kind of funny, King, because you said to me, like, Pasta, I hope this isn't a deal breaker, but I don't give a shit if Garrett pulled his gun first when the guy drove into the crowd. The shooter, the man who murdered Garrett, claims that Garrett pulled his gun first. You didn't see either way, but your thoughts on what I said, and I agree with you, King, when somebody drives their car into the crowd, that's it. Maybe he was pulling a gun to protect his wife on a wheelchair where a car could be hidden. So give us a little of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: you drive, if you're upset or whatever the case be, or you slip up, or let's say you made a mistake, which is literally impossible. He drove his car into a crowd. That is intent right there to cause harm.
Yeah. Slamming his horn, right?
Slamming his horn, putting on his brakes, rolling on your window, and shooting off your gun. I mean, at that point, just driving into protesters, you have something on your mind that you're trying to cause harm at that point. So I mean, Garrett, there are eyewitnesses saying that he did not pull out his gun, and I believe he didn't pull out his gun. And if he did, the guy still drove. He should be in jail right now. And that's all I have to say. That's a stupid argument right there. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Hey, I'm going to have the man on the ones and twos, our producer, Jonny Tsuna's got something to say. He's got a question to ask, King.
Sure.
In Seattle, when we were in Seattle on the ground, we saw that, the bikers there blocking off the streets so that cars don't do that, right? You said you had the bikers there also as well, right?
Right, yeah.
So that means that car must have pushed through some bikers.
No, because Garrett wasn't at the big. So how it works is when the bikes come up, that means there's no protesters yet. Then when protesters start marching through, that's when the bikes kind of slowly go over to the next street. So there was already protesters walking through, so the bikes kind of just carried on. And it's so in the middle of the protest group, that's when he.
So the bikers moved on.
They keep moving forward to secure the next spot. Damn. Did you guys have yellow vests though, standing on each corner in front of those people?
There's like a group of 100 people marching.
Because
it's obvious that they're marching, right?
It's obvious that they're marching, but a lot of times in organizations they'll have extra people that will stand there with like a yellow vest in front of those cars until the protest is clear and keep working that. Was there anybody between the protesters and the car? Or was it just one of those things where they were already walking through and people should know just to wait until they clear?
It was already walking through, because I already made it through. There was already so many protesters going by, so. Yeah.
So the shooter claims that Garrett pulled his gun and that he fired in retaliation, but the cops let him go despite driving in violently with his horn and his brakes. Going into a crowd right away, he should have been arrested right there. It's like, you should have been driving in there. You're trying to hit people. People always have the right of way. Even if there's no lights or whatever, they should know better.
At least detained.
At least detained.
Like how they detain journalists.
They don't detain. They'll detain us as journalists for 20 hours, but they won't detain a guy who killed somebody. How are the other organizers, and the friends of Garrett handling this crisis right now? Is it going to deter you guys from getting back out in the streets?
I have a protest tomorrow that Star Power is hosting. We're saddened by this. Garrett was a hero. He was a true ally. And that night, the night of his vigil, his fiance, Whitney, wanted to march. She wanted to continue this. She wanted to keep it going. And we did. I believe that it's only right to keep on going. We're now the Black leaders are coming together. We're having a meeting, and we're going to figure out tactics to, prevent this from happening, I guess you could say, or protect ourselves. But we're saddened by the loss of Garrett. We are, and it's making us stronger and come together. This is the time to come together right now.
Please, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little choked up about Whitney. Please,
Yeah.
that's amazing that she wanted to go back out there.
She's strong. She's strong. She's honestly my inspiration.
I don't even know the woman, and I'm crying because it's just, you see these pictures of Whitney and Garrett, and they are moving. And I'm saddened by Garrett's death, but I think that God has left her some great people to look after her, and I'm happy that you guys are going to be there to support her, whatnot. And I'm sure the community will support her and help her out the best way they can. And I hope she just keeps fighting because that's amazing. How does this situation affect or even change the way you'll organize and protest moving forward?
I have a few organization that's going to provide safety equipment. I'm going to provide a vest as well. And we are in the works of having people that are going to be armed, essentially.
It's crazy that we have to be armed at a rally just, protesting our First Amendment rights. The thing that's disgusting about this whole situation that the man that was killed was pushing a woman in a wheelchair.
Right.
I mean, how aggressive can you be pushing a woman in a wheelchair? Johnny, anything else? Listen, King, I want you to take a couple minutes to tell us your message to people out there who are protesting right now. And also, please plug your organization or your other organizations where people can link up with you and where you see where you hope these protests move and what they get for us in the future, what you're looking to obtain from doing what you're doing.
Yes, I want to say first off that what I realized from this weekend, what I've been realizing over time, that we are coming together as a nation. This movement is becoming bigger every day. And whenever we see or we get violence like that or see hatred coming around, that's because we are getting stronger every day, and we should continue this fight. And we came out there for Portland. Then the Garrett situation happened. Next thing you know, California's having a protest for Garrett. So tomorrow for my protest, I'm coming together for the nation. This is all coming together. I'm coming together for the Black leaders in Austin. I'm hoping other cities will mobilize too as well. I want to connect with other cities. I want us to come together because this is the time. This is how we're going to actually get this going and start getting justice. It's been too long. You can reach out to me on Instagram, *Blac Collective. That is *BLACKOLLECTIVE. That is the best way you can contact me right now. And then my personal Instagram account is King Fafah. It's KING_FAFAH.
Has the mayor said anything about this?
I don't want to get upset by what he said. Yeah. Too many guns in the street. That's all. We can paraphrase it. And we have the leader of the Austin Police Association saying that Garrett deserved it.
Really?
Yeah.
King, I hope you guys find somebody and run that person for mayor, kick those other assholes out of office, and get a real revolutionist in there who's going to do what's right, who's going to protect protesters, who's going to really defund the police. And that's what I'm telling everybody to do right now. Get into your city councils, find people in this protest that you want to run in different districts so we can get our message and move forward and get some real change out there, King. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really do appreciate it. And please give my love to Whitney and all the other organizers and protesters out there who are marching in solidarity.
I will. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Here with King Fafah, Pastor Jardula from the Convo Couch, and Jonny Tsunami on the ones and twos. Peace and love to everybody out there. Tell your closest person to you that you love them. You never know. Life is precious, and we don't know when you're gonna go. Convo out.